Are you listening?
Welcome to the Nerf Report. My name is Bryant, and you know what? I gotta level with you. I wish we had something to talk about today. If only there was a story that was being completely blown out of proportion and having a calm, valid conversation was just so desperately needed.
Oh look, Google is giving up on Stadia just like they do basically every other platform they create.
Google's history of tossing cash at any side project that interested them, that it was going to end up this way.
The struggle really shows in today's news because it has been officially announced that Stadia will be closing down all of its first-party studios.
Well, this isn't exactly a surprise, but apparently Google Stadia is now dead.
I think Stadia is dead as a platform.
Wow! And let's just get this straight. What was the source for all of that outrage? All right, let's see. What do we got here? Focusing on Stadia's future as a platform and winding down Stadia Games and Entertainment. Huh. You know, I gotta admit, I'm kind of confused here. Like, on one hand, Stadia says focusing in on the future, and then that gets portrayed as being, how do they say it?
I think Stadia is dead as a platform.
Now, obviously, this is a huge loss for Stadia as a platform, as Stadia Games and Entertainment were the creation arm of Google Stadia. Stadia Games and Entertainment were focusing on creating and developing never-before-seen exclusive games that were empowered by the cloud. In fact, you may have heard of such titles as, what's going on here? Come on, roll the B-roll. I need to talk about the games that Stadia Games and Entertainment created. What are you handing me? Let's see. Right. I am being told that Stadia Games and Entertainment never made a single game to begin with. So hold on. Stadia as a platform is still here. Stadia still plans on adding 400 plus games to the platform, and we lost something that we never really had to begin with? I mean, would you really break it down? It's just business as usual, and definitely not like, well, how did they say it?
I think Stadia is dead as a platform.
In fact, Phil Harrison, the vice president of Google Stadia, wrote in a blog post, "What does this mean if you are a current or future Stadia player? You can continue playing all of your games on Stadia and Stadia Pro, and we'll continue to bring new titles from third parties to the platform. We're committed to the future of cloud gaming, and we'll continue to do our part to drive this industry forward." You know, after reading that, I noticed there's a lot of F words that come to mind. Like forward and future, as both of those words were used in that very same blog post. Two words that are used to talk about the road ahead, and not really something that would be appropriate to, well, use at a funeral. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here to remember our good friend Jack, who lived a great life and has so much to look forward to. He has such a bright future, lying here in the dirt with the worms and God knows what else just decomposing his body. The point is, yes, losing Stadia Games and Entertainment definitely sucks, but stating that the service is now dead because, well, we lost something that we never had is the equivalent of me complaining that my relationship with Jennifer Lawrence is now over. Did I have a relationship with Jennifer Lawrence? Well, no. Did I ever go on a date or have any attention from her? Unfortunately, no. Does my relationship with Jennifer Lawrence being over have any effect on my future? No. So what am I missing here? I mean, these are all extremely intelligent and credible news outlets. What am I missing? You know what? Let's go back to the blog post. Phil Harrison continued to write, "Creating best-in-class games from the ground up takes many years and significant investment, and the cost is going up exponentially. Given our focus on building on the proven technology of Stadia as well as deepening our business partnerships, we've decided that we will not be investing further in bringing exclusive content from our internal development team, Stadia Games and Entertainment." Yeah, I gotta level with you. I still don't see it. The cost of video games have skyrocketed over the last few years. Take The Last of Us Part 2. PlayStation reportedly spent $100 million just to make that game. Which, yes, it is a masterpiece and probably one of my favorite games from 2020. However, on the flip side, Amazon reportedly spent $500 million last year on their video game division. And let's be clear, that number doesn't include Amazon Luna or Twitch. $500 million, and what do we get? Crucible and the New World. And my point here is that just because you throw large piles of cash at an internal division doesn't guarantee that you are going to have a hit like The Last of Us Part 2. In fact, even Sean Layden, the former executive of PlayStation, stated, "The problem with this business model is it's just not sustainable. I don't think that in the next generation you can take those numbers and multiply them by 2 and think that you're going to continue to grow." Which, when Sean Layden stated this, I think the consensus was, well, yeah, that makes sense. But when Stadia does the very same thing, well...
I think Stadia is dead as a platform.
Now, the other side of this narrative that I keep on hearing is that Stadia is doomed without exclusives. Or as Zach Laidlaw of Android Police reminded me on Twitter, look at the major platforms in the gaming industry: PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo. No successful platform has ever survived on third-party content alone. And now that Microsoft is buying up every major IP it can find, third-party talent will be limited. Good point. And if there was only a platform that survived on third-party content alone and launched very few exclusives, but was embraced by millions of gamers, I might have a valid comeback. God, if there was only a platform like that existed.
But Bryant, exclusives are what drives new players to the platform.
Again, solid point, but I just wish there was a game that wasn't an exclusive that drew thousands of new players to Google Stadia simply for how it performed over the other consoles. God, I don't know what's up with my brain today. It's just not working.
Bryant, the fact that you don't think that Stadia needs exclusives are insane. Exclusives are the lifeblood of the platform.
Huh, wait a minute. Aren't you the guy who said exclusives are bad for the video game industry during my last video? Now, are you sure? Because there was this guy that looked like you and sure as hell sounded like you and was like,
I hate that Xbox has purchased Bethesda. Exclusives are terrible for the video game industry.
oh, that must have been my cousin. Interesting. Look, I want to level with you guys. Exclusives are important. They serve a purpose of bringing new eyes to your service. But to state that a platform can't survive without exclusives is just false. Like, just because I have personally never seen a moose, despite the fact that I've been to Canada like 6 times, doesn't allow me to say, you know what, I don't think moose exist. Because remember, Stadia isn't trying to be the next PlayStation or the next Xbox. They're trying to create their own market for casual gamers and emerging video game markets. This has never been about converting diehard fans from either platform, but creating a brand new platform for the next billion gamers. And we should point out, Phil Harrison didn't rule out exclusive titles from third-party developers. In fact, that is pretty much what they've done all of 2020. Crata, Orcs Must Die, and Outcasters. None of these games were produced by Stadia Games and Entertainment. Instead, they were produced by third-party studios. And look, I don't want to be misconstrued here. I'm not trying to brush this situation under the rug, because 150 developers lost their job this week, and that, for me, is not cool. But to say that Stadia is dead because they're transitioning from a creation business model to a distribution business model, well, that's not cool either. And I guess where I land on all of this is I just want to, it reminds me of a story. And ironically, like, this comes from Will Smith. Will told this story that when he was a kid, his dad wanted him to rebuild this wall that was on their property. And like any kid, he looked at the massive gaping hole where this wall wasn't, and he was like, this is impossible. And his dad sat down and he said, when you're building a wall, you don't set out and say that I'm going to build the biggest and the baddest wall that has ever been seen. You're just going to get distracted by, what's missing and how much work you have left to do. Instead, you pick up a brick and you say, I'm going to lay this brick as perfectly as a brick can be laid. And then you move on to the next one, and then the next one. And then eventually, you have a wall. This whole Stadia situation reminds me of that story so much. Stadia set out to change the world of gaming. We're going to have first-party games. We're going to have 4K gaming without really laying that first brick. So with this announcement, I mean, for me, Stadia's refocusing, they're reorganizing. It sounds like they're just doing it the right way. Establishing your first brick and then moving on to the next and then the next. And then eventually we'll have a wall. Hey, thanks again for checking out our channel. If you like what you saw and you want to see more content just like it, which who wouldn't, hit the subscribe button right there. And while you're down there, hit the like button. Maybe even consider becoming a Nerf Report best friend, just like the people listed down below did. In fact, don't you want to see your name there? I know I do.